and welcome back to Tometoo Academy. Today, we're going to be going through session one, which is looking at digital marketing in the broad sense and getting to really understand what are the components that make up digital marketing itself. I would like to take a moment to remind everybody that Tometoo Academy is in great part possible thanks to the co-funding from the European Union through the Erasmus Plus program. It has been a great pleasure participating and being able to have them as co-financiers of our initiative. So let's dive straight into it. So the concept of marketing is something that we like to approach in order to make sure that you understand that marketing is not just one single thing. So let's take, for example, the fact that the circus comes to your town and they go ahead and hang up a poster. What is that called? Well, that's pure and simple, it's advertising. Then let's say that they hang that poster off of the elephant and parade it around the city. That is actually called promotion. Then let's say that by chance, that elephant enters the mayor's garden and tears up his flower bed, and the whole newspaper writes about it. That is actually called publicity. If then you actually can talk to the mayor and get him to laugh about this whole ordeal, well, that's called PR or public relations. And if you actually can tell everyone at that point how much fun it's going to be and how many acts you actually have available over at the circus, that is actually sales. However, if you planned all of those elements, that is actually marketing. So as you can see, marketing is, again, not just one thing. It is a combination. It is the perfect combination of elements that come together to make this one whole thing, to make something possible. So that said, let's get into a brief introduction. So, what is digital marketing itself? So digital marketing is basically, from its origins, when it was through traditional channels where we would promote, where we would, get the word out there and have sales initiatives. Digital marketing from that end of the spectrum has actually moved into the channels that we use today. So we're talking about the internet at large, we're talking about social media. We're looking at all of these digital channels, which not only allow for a company to get their product or their service directly to the users based on very specific criteria of who they understand that their buyer persona or their target audience is. But they can actually now, and this is the interesting part and the main difference between digital marketing and, well, what marketing used to be. It's the fact that through these digital efforts, we can actually now measure much more than we actually could previously through traditional channels. So let's put the example that before we could take advantage of a newspaper, magazines, there would be flyers, there would be billboards, there would be all sorts of channels, of resources that you could go into. But how did you actually measure the impact that those were having? So we obviously used to have companies that were sort of intermediaries that would either sell us, a very viable spot, there was a desirable placement, but beyond that, we really didn't understand or weren't able to measure, at least not in a cost-effective manner, the actual impact that we were having. Okay, so thanks to technology, we've actually been able to bridge that gap and make sure that we can actually understand what is being impactful, what is not. We're able to do a lot of things like test out different versions of the same publicity or of the same artistic design that we might have put out there. So it's very interesting to understand that marketing within itself as a concept hasn't changed. That's still the combination of basically getting the word out there on a product or service and doing so in a targeted way. What digital marketing in itself has been able to do is basically to exploit the digital channels in order to do this, which has afforded the sector two principal things: being able to target um, that content for very specific users, and also being able to measure the impact that it is having. So let's look at the different applications of digital marketing that we could have available. Now, we need to understand that digital marketing has several very specific goals. Okay, so the goal is to build a strong presence, increase visibility, and generate interaction with a target audience around a product or service. In the digital age, this now involves a variety of strategies and tactics, such as search engine optimization, which is commonly known as SEO. Then there's social media advertising, which could look like two different types of things. You could either have a very specific ads that you put out on social media, and that's just that. It's an actual ad that people will either see or not, depending on the criteria that they fit for that ad. But there's also what is known as content marketing, which is actually having an account, having a profile on a social media channel, and then making sure that you are putting out curated content for a specific target group in order to generate that interaction or that engagement that you're looking to have. There's also email marketing, which is still very much present, and it's quite effective if done properly. This actually has two parts to it. It could be either cold email or warm. Now, the cold email refers that I just send an email text to, let's say, 50 contacts. I don't know these contacts. I haven't had a previous interaction, and they maybe have not had an interaction with us. Maybe they're not even aware of our brand, but we serve them this email equally. But then there's also warm email, which is a little bit more time consuming, but it's really interesting. It could be very effective. Why? Because what you do is that you take those 50 people and decide if there's a group of them that might be more relevant to your service or to your product. And what you will do is understand a little bit of who they are. You will know specifically who you're addressing, for example, and how your product or service is relevant to them. And then you make sure through a copywriting effort to put that into the text of the email that you're sending. Okay. Then there's also multimedia content and data analytics. So as you can see, everything basically around digital marketing at this point is quite um, oriented towards the being able to A, target, and B, measure. Because again, that is the big leap that has now, taken hold of the sector. Okay. So to understand digital marketing, it's always good to understand several key terms. Some of these we've actually already mentioned in this video, but it's interesting to go through them. Why? Because if we understand the key terms, at least we're going to get the general idea of what it is that we're talking about. And here, I want to make sure that you take the time, not just to hear me go through these, which I will, but also take the time to really come back to this slide or this section of the presentation and really study these in depth. Just make sure that you understand. Why? Because like we said at the beginning, Tometoo has several objectives, but the broader one and the all-encompassing one is to leave you with at least the notions or basic understanding of what digital marketing is and what the requirements are and what are the aspects of it. Because this can be a very powerful tool, even though your area of expertise might be very far away from digital marketing. Truth is that you might not be that exempt from understanding. In fact, you could probably improve on some things by understanding some of these key terms. So let's jump into this. So the first one we've already said several times, which is search engine optimization. So, as per its definition, it is the set of techniques and strategies used to improve the visibility and positioning of a website in the results of search engines such as Google. And this really is the best example. If you've ever searched through Google, chances are that your behavior or your go-to is to stay on that first page. And if you don't see it on that first page, it's almost like it doesn't exist. Seldomly do you go into page two. I mean, there's a funny saying that it's basically you would have to be desperate to go into page two. So companies know this. Company knows that this is an inherent behavior in users. So of course, everybody is struggling to make sure that we are relevant enough to be going on that first page. In fact, ideally, you would probably be one of the first three results on the page. So how do we do that? How does search engine optimization directly, impact? It does it through what are known as keywords. So keywords are a very interesting concept within themselves because keywords are specific words that people may be using to search for things that are related to your product or your service. But it's just how they understand the general idea and how they go out there into search engines to find it, to find more information on it. So, as digital marketers, our job is to make sure that we are aware of what these words may or may not be and to insert them into our text. So, normally, what happens through search engine optimization is that through strategies and techniques such as repetition within our main text, Google learns to recognize that we are using this word. And if anybody is searching for that specific word in a specific context, and we've been able to actually reproduce that in our text, that means that we are going to come up at the top of the results. So ideally, that's what would happen. Of course, there are other elements in the way that Google indexes web pages, and more recently, whether it recognizes if it's AI generated or not. So be mindful, but as a general rule of thumb, SEO is a great strategy and a great technique, excuse me. And then, sort of a good practice within this is just to practice repetition. Once you've been able to identify what is your key term or your keyword as it is known to users at large. Okay. Then we have search engine marketing or SEM. So this is actually paid advertisement on search engines. Just to give you a quick example, we've all searched on Google and we sometimes see that the first two results are labeled as ads. So that is actually search engine marketing. Now, these are also done through keywords. The only thing or the only difference is that you're actually paying based on the use of that word, and it could be regardless of context, in order to be the first one up there. The problem with this is that in recent times, people have actually learned, or not learned, but people actually tend to avoid the promoted or those ads that come up for fear of either it being some kind of scam or phishing or anything. Normally, the first filter will be to understand what website it's coming from. So if your keyword is rather very different from what your URL or your website address may be mindful of this as a general strategy. But yes, so SEM campaigns typically use the pay-per-click or pay-per-click, excuse me, or the PPC to monitor that. That means that that keyword that you're paying for will cost you by every click that you get. So far, so good. You say, well, that can't be very expensive, but that normally does depend on the word. So sometimes we might have a really specific word and it's a great word, but the problem is that it's a word that a lot of people are betting on. That would then increase the actual cost of it. So be mindful of these elements. However, I hope that this does help to, shed some light and understanding into what SEM actually is. Then we have social networks. As a general term, I think at this point we are all aware of what social networks are, but these are online platforms where us as users can share, interact, and engage with content. Social media marketing, in fact, as I mentioned before, involves creating strategies to either promote the products and services through either content or directly by paying through ads. So just as general terminology, it's good to understand. Now, social networks obviously does not involve just not refer to just one specific platform. Like let's say when we're talking about Facebook, we would say Facebook. We would not say social network. But if we're talking about social network in general, meaning we may still not know which platform we're going to, that's a social network. So that's a great use of that word. Then there's marketing. So content marketing is a strategy focused on creating and distributing very valuable and relevant content to attract, retain, and convert, the target audiences. So this could include either articles, videos, infographics, and among others. This is looking for a much more deeper connection with the actual brand, product, or service in question. Why? Because normally what we would do is, like I said before, we're going to have a profile or an account for our business, and we come into the element of having to build a community around that. And then based on that community, we start developing content by and for them. Okay. So it's an added step that could add a lot of complexity. It could be very fruitful when we're measuring things such as conversion, which we'll see a little bit further down the line. But content marketing, great strategy. Email marketing. As I said before, this is just the use of email as a direct communication channel with potential or current customers. It involves sending promotional information or transactional messages. Again, email marketing could be cold or could be warm. For bonus imaginary points, feel free to tell yourself right now if you remember the difference between those two. Then we have web analytics. This is the process of collecting, measuring, and analyzing, as well as then reporting forward to other departments the data that we actually obtain, meaning the results that we've obtained. We are able now to measure. Normally, this is done through web analytics. If you've done any kind of, diving into data, or you're rather interested in it, you might have heard of Google Analytics. That's normally the go-to place to measure website interactions, and, just in general, the platform that we may have, the statistics in there. So now you're probably asking yourself, well, web analytics, does that have anything to do with, let's say, social networks and the way that we measure? Social networks are actually analytics within themselves, because it is data. But when we're talking about web analytics, we're very much referring to having a website and then being able to measure what is happening there based on what we've done. So we're directly able to measure if we make any changes on our website, what type of effect that has then had. Then CTR, or click-through rate. This is the ratio of clicks on a link, on an ad, compared to how many views it got. You may have actually seen this a lot on some social networks, specifically X, previously known as Twitter. We were able to see that, the tweet had actually been seen or viewed by 2,000 people. However, we had perhaps 2 likes or 3 likes. That's just a reflection of, the disparity that could exist between, okay, I saw your tweet or I saw your post, and that's great. But was I compelled to interact with it? Well, based on the number of clicks in my example, which is 2, not really. So then we would use that information to either pivot and try some other types of color palettes or try some different copywriting in order to engage and capture the attention of the users. Then we have conversion. So this is actually the desired action that we want the users to take. So a conversion could be, depending on your business, either register, uh, buy, download. It depends on what you're promoting at that time and what your interest is through that strategy or through that campaign that you're doing with content. But it's actually one of the key indicators of success in digital marketing. Every time we're talking about, you know, achieving an objective, we are talking about a conversion. So if you ever hear that term, now you know what it means. Then we have landing page. Landing page is quite self-explanatory. It's a web page specifically designed to convert visitors into leads or customers. So it's basically just the page where you're having people go from other, be it a social network or from any type of post that you put out there in order to redirect them and bring them in. So let's say that we had a post on social media and the post was visit our webpage or sign up on our webpage. If you can measure the fact that they've gone into that landing page, then you're able to understand that a conversion has occurred because you had a specific goal to get them there and they have actually gotten there. Now, a landing page is not just one specific page. It's any page that you decide to promote where people are supposed to convert to. Okay, so that's not just a landing page as in the front page of a website. That's normally a common misconception. Then there's ROI, which is return on investment. And basically, this is just a metric that measures the effectiveness of our investment. It's calculated by dividing the profit earned by the initial investment that was made. And it's normally expressed as a percentage. This is basically a metric just to understand that we are getting out of our actions more than we have put in. And at the end of the day, it's, if we're putting more into something that we're getting out, maybe we need to rethink about, that and understand whether we need to pivot or maybe it's an action that we need to stop altogether. Okay. Then there's keyword. A keyword, as I said before, is a term used in digital marketing to describe a word or group of words that an internet user uses to perform a search in a search engine or a search bar when looking for information on a specific product, concept, service, etc. Just when looking on information. A great example on this is, go on Google right now and try to see how you've searched. If you click on the search bar, you'll be able to get a drop down and you'll see some of your previous searches. And question, why did I ask Google to give me information on this? Why did I use that word? Who came up? So does that mean that they're actually their search engine optimization is based around that word? Chances are yes, but it's a great way to get your train of thought into how people are doing things and into how you can potentially help yourself gain more visibility. Just as a general note, that could also work for personal web pages. It doesn't just have to be a service or a product or a company. That can also happen for personal web pages if we've decided to help. So when we take a look at these key terms, again, the one thing that jumps out is the fact that these are really extrapolable. We could be talking about a business, we could be talking about a service, but we could also be talking about using these or applying these concepts to an individual. Let's say an individual who is specifically seeking for employment. Well, we also, as candidates, want to be highly visible. We, as candidates, want to come up as your first option. We, as candidates, want to be recognized as experts within our specific areas of expertise. So all of these terms are quite mix and match, and that's something that we want to have and make very clear here on Tometoo, that we're not just talking for entrepreneurs, even though we happen to think that that is sort of a great type of action. But you could also be applying a lot of these concepts uh, to your own job search. So, for example, let's say that you have your CV online because you happen to have a small little web page for yourself. Is that web page optimized for SEO? Are you using a key term to define yourself as a professional? So these are interesting conversations that we want to go ahead and generate for our audience who are specifically in that category of people of looking for employment, not necessarily looking to be entrepreneurs. The next thing that we notice is that there is a really strong focus on objectively measuring success. Somebody way smarter than us once said that the difference between science and madness is taking notes and writing things down. This is sort of the same concept. We should always try to be as data driven as we can. And if we are doing efforts within that qualify within the realm of digital marketing, which, spoiler alert, we always are, even when we're just on our own social media looking for certain likes or looking for a certain specific type of engagement. We need to understand what works, what doesn't work, and then we can make conscious decisions as to how we move forward to improve that. Okay. In this digital age, digital marketing is really so beyond a commercial use that it really is relevant to understand it as a whole, which is, our goal through Tometoo, because it's just cross-cutting across every aspect of our lives. So, leaving you with that concept, let's go ahead and move forward. So, let's talk about the application of digital marketing. So, like we said, as a main objective, it involves a strategic integration of those previously defined elements that we've identified to build a solid online presence, attract the right audience, and convert views into either customers or interviews. Why not? And then be able to measure our performance continually so we can optimize on those results. So when we're talking about the application, we need to understand that all of the key terms that we've explored uh, will relate to either operation aspect or an application directly. So when we're talking about operation, this refers to how a digital marketing component operates and what aspects influence its performance. So in the example of SEO, by understanding how keywords, our site structure, and links affect search engine visibility, we understand that this is purely an operational aspect of the term. Then we have the application aspect, and this is related directly to a concrete action in or of an implementing strategy or tactic in a practical situation. So let's take the example of SEM. So for SEM, the application involves creating and managing advertising campaigns on either search engines or social media networks in order to gain immediate visibility. Okay, so if you need to stop the video right now and perhaps ponder these two, please feel free to go ahead and do so because it is important. Now, what I want to do is sort of look back on those key terms that we've learned right now so we can go ahead and understand which of those terms pertains to either an operational term or directly to an application. So digital marketing is applied through a variety of elements and strategies. Each one is designed to achieve a very specific goal. So let's look at these terms. So search engine optimization. As we said, this is purely operational. Why? Optimizing a website to improve its visibility in search engine will always include the implementation of keyword research. Why? We need to understand how people are talking about the concept of our product or the concept of our service in order to understand how they're going to search for it. Okay? So based on that, we would probably create quality content implementing those keywords, and we would probably optimize our site structure. Even, for example, there are people who, once they identify the keyword behind or a cool word, as they would define it, that is super relatable to the product or service or what we're looking to do, they might even go as far as to buy the actual word as a URL if it's available. And that's a great example of, optimizing the site structure around this, okay? Now, obtaining quality links is also a big part of this, as normally we would also include what is known as external linking or internal linking within all of the content that we have, specifically when we're talking about websites. Okay, this as a whole will always work to improve the positioning in the search results of either Google or any other search engine that you may be looking for. Then we have SEM, search engine marketing. So the application aspect of this, because it is an application term, as we said before, is to use paid ads on a platform like Google Ads or on a social network, specifically when we promote a post, for example. Now, normally that tends to be a standalone post. It's seldomly part of some type of campaign, although that would be ideal. But the action here, the application is purely creating something in order to promote it. So it's rather a standalone. Okay, so again, this will allow the ad to appear in sponsored results, or it will just randomly show up on people who are not necessarily a part of your community on social media, and will just either generate traffic or not. Normally, when we create these types of ads, both on social media or on search engines, we will be asked to go ahead and define who these users are and what are certain characteristics of them. So keep in mind that you will need to have a certain understanding for SEM of who your ideal target audience is, and what their day-to-day may be like or what their interests may be like. Then social network. Again, this one is purely operational. This is about creating business profiles on platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, and then creating posts that are relevant and interactive for our audience. And again, we could also use advertising strategies, but we would use them within them. Okay, that doesn't mean that if we're on social network, we're automatically doing advertising. And that's sort of the difference there. That really helps to illustrate the two types of elements. And behind, these advertising strategies, it depends on the goal that we've set for them. It's either to increase brand awareness, generate engagement, or we're looking for very direct and specific conversion. Then we have content marketing. This is purely application. Why? So we develop and distribute valuable content, whether it's in the form of blogs, videos, infographics, whatever we may have. And the content is seeking to attract, to educate, and retain that audience, positioning the brand as a leader in its industry. Now, this is sort of the ideal scenario, right? But again, when we're doing content marketing, it's about building that community around something. So that's why we're looking to position through that. Content marketing is normally one leg of what would be a digital marketing strategy. Then we have email marketing. This is, again, sending personalized, targeted emails to a list of contacts. This email can contain either specific offers, product updates, or just general calls to action that encourage the engagement that we're looking for. And this will be, again, purely operational. This is where we go to do something, or through what we go to achieve our goals. Then we have web analytics. This is purely application. This is using tools like Google Analytics in order to monitor website traffic, analyze the user behavior, and measure the campaign performance. The data collected here will normally help to make informed decisions on whether we pivot uh, or if we continue to do the same thing because we are obtaining the results that we wanted to obtain. Then we have conversion. Conversion is an application. This defines a specific conversion, you know, uh, and again, could be purchasing, signing up, registering, subscribing, whatever it is that you're doing. But it is a direct action. Ergo, it makes it a direct application. Then we have the CTR, which is the click-through rate. So here we would measure the effectiveness of our ads or our links. A high CTR might indicate that our content is relevant and engaging for our audience, while the low CTR may require adjustments, in the design or the copywriting or see what may not be happening there. Now, a CTR could be an external thing. We would then, let's say that we have we're measuring clicks from social media into our website. We would then need to make sure that we can measure what's happening in our website for those people that came through that link and seeing if then our website is properly set up for our goals. But this is a little bit further down the line and going into a little bit deeper. Then we have landing page. This will be purely an operational aspect. It is a design campaign of product-specific web pages with a clear focus on conversion. The landing page eliminates any distraction and helps the user to focus and zero in on what you want them to focus and zero into. Then we have return on investment. And this is an application to calculate the ROI to assess the effectiveness of our campaigns. Again, understanding that we are getting out more than what we are putting in. Then we have digital marketing campaign strategies. The first type of strategy that we have is the first type that we have, because there are several, and this will depend on the type of product, um, the type of service, or what our goal actually is. So there are certain types of strategies, and within these types of strategies, there are different tactics that you could implement. So as we move into digital marketing and these campaign strategies, we need to understand that there are levels and then sub-levels to these, depending on what our goals may be. So let's go first into the content strategy, which we've mentioned it before. And this relies on the creation and distribution of relevant and valuable content to attract, retain, and convert an audience. This whole strategy focuses on establishing the brand or you as an individual as either a thought leader or an industry leader and building trust around that either person or that logo or brand. Okay. So then we have the key strategies. Like I said, we have content strategy. Then we have social media strategy, which is the planned use of social platforms in order to build that brand presence, encourage engagement, and drive traffic towards a specific goal. That could be a website in order to have them register or whatever it is that you've established as that goal for that campaign or for that strategy. This normally also requires you to understand where your audience is and what they're talking about on those different social media platforms. Okay. Then we have email marketing strategy. Again, this is just sending out personalized messages to a list of contacts with the specific goal of getting them to either convert, to sign up, buy, provide them with useful information that they may need. Then we have acquisition and conversion strategies. So acquisition and conversion strategies in digital marketing focus on attracting the users, specific users, and then converting them into valuable leads. So leads in digital marketing are just very specific people who are interested in, or very relevant to your product or service. The acquisition strategy encapsulated by elements such as search engine marketing. It uses paid advertisement on search engines to increase the visibility and attract that relevant traffic that you're looking for. Uh, on the other hand, the conversion strategy focuses on transforming that traffic into a specific action. So again, acquisition is just going into getting people to understand who you are and perhaps getting them to somehow interact with your brand. It could be, come see this cool content on our webpage, come see this cool video, or just by providing them straight up with some general information. But when we're looking at a conversion strategy, that means that we are focusing on one very specific action that we want them to take. So through acquisition and conversion strategies, we have a search engine marketing strategy, which is, again, the use of paid advertisement in order to generate the visibility and attract the relevant traffic that we want. Again, this will include the pay-per-click aspect, which is a way to measure how that is being successful, but that will also generate a cost, meaning that it will elevate your, the not the return of investment, but the actual investment itself. Then we have the SEO strategy, so search engine optimization. And here is where we optimize our website to improve its visibility in an organic way. Again, I always like to go back to the exercise of repetition, so understanding what my keyword or my key term is, and making sure that my website and the content that I have on it is built around it. Of course, that means that we have to be really careful on either how specific or how niche those terms may be. But it also, you need to balance it out with a type of customer or user that you're looking for. Then we have the conversion strategy, which is the design of a specific process and content to guide users to perform a specific action. Then we have the retention and loyalty strategies, which in digital marketing focus on cultivating sort of a long-term relationship with your brand. So normally if you have a service or, a product that is a one-time sort of deal, you don't have returning customers on this, maybe then you might not be very focused on having a retention or a loyalty strategy. But if the type of service that you offer or product is a recurrent need in your for your target audience, then you would definitely work on this type of strategy. So the retention strategy basically looks to maintain the relevance through ongoing content campaigns. So think of it as you building that community around your brand and then growing with your users in a way that you help your users grow, but they also help you grow by letting you know what's working and what is not. On the other hand, customer loyalty is achieved through programs that reward that loyalty. So offering exclusive benefits for people who are part of the community, or for those that have signed up, you'll send them special offers and discounts regarding your products or services, and that is their reward for having been there. Then we have the subsets between these retention and loyalty strategies. We have continuous content marketing strategy, which is the consistent planning and execution of content campaigns to maintain that long-term relevance and that engagement. Then we have marketing automation strategy. Now, this is the use of tools and technologies to automate that marketing process, such as email sending, audience segmentation, and content personalization with a goal of improving the efficiency of this actual content itself. Then we have the customer loyalty strategy, which again, it's just programs and tactics that we've designed to foster, excuse me, the customer loyalty. So again, rewards, discounts, specific things for being part of our community. It is a constant thank you to those people who we have been able to convert, but then not leaving it just at that conversion and showing them constantly that it was worth their while having taken that action. So what is the impact of digital marketing? When we talk about impact, we do refer to the tangible repercussion, influences, and results that digital marketing, that digital strategies and campaigns can generate for the presence, reputation, and overall success of a brand or a business in the online environment. This impact could manifest itself in various aspects. It really does depend on what we're valuing. It could be increased visibility and recognition within the search engines. It could be interactions on social networks. Maybe we're looking to focus on that community building. So what we're looking for is more shares, likes, comments. And then we can definitely go ahead and understand that that is the impact that we are looking for. Then if you're much more heavy into your sales aspect, what you're looking for is a lead generation or an actual conversion in the way of either a sale or a registration for a service, which is continued. Digital marketing does provide a unique opportunity to measure and analyze this data in real time. And again, that is the biggest difference right now when it comes to traditional marketing and digital marketing. The fact that that data is mostly on demand. When we post something on social media, for example, normally we would have to wait between 20 and 30 minutes before it starts generating data. But once it does start generating data, we're able to understand how many impressions, meaning how many views it's gotten. And of course, instantaneously, we will start getting the notifications for the likes, the comments, or the shares that we've had. So we can go out there and respond to that and engage right back with our customers. So we can't talk about impact without talking about measurement. And this is something that we want to make sure that we leave very clearly stated. Being able to measure what is happening or what the results of your actions are directly going to allow you to understand whether you are being successful or whether you need to start considering alternatives. And then you can go into that pivoting where you understand what has worked well in the past and then where I want to take this. And then you can definitely go ahead and pivot. And again, it's a continuous cycle of understanding what works and what doesn't, and then making sure that you're repeating. So what we want to do is take you some of the principal metrics that we normally go into and that we're able to understand that give us the most amount of information. So the first one is website traffic. I think since the advent of the internet, we've been listening to, website hits. How many people do I have here? And as a general overview, that's actually a great metric to have. But then it's important to understand what people are actually doing or what you're actually achieving from having gotten those website hits or by generating that website traffic. And then that takes us straight into a conversion. So again, I want to make sure that you understand that conversions are not specifically related to sales. They are much more specific to the objective that you have in mind for a specific campaign. What were you looking for? And then what did you establish as the action that you wanted the customer to do. But conversions is basically tracking that number of people. Again, could be purchases, could be signups, could be downloads. But how many of those did you get? And then you can start contrasting, even if we just limit ourselves. So let's say that we generated, you know, 2,000 people visited our website. So our website traffic was of 2,000. But then our conversion rate, meaning we measured a download button or we registered sales, was 100. So that's good. I'm not going to say that's bad, but that means that there was 1,900 people who did nothing else on your website. And again, there are definite ways of, other things that you can measure how those people moved about. But to keep it simple, what was the conversion? What did we bring them into the website for? And why did only 100 of them do this? Just questions that you can start asking yourself. And this is already, being data driven. These are making educated questions. Then we have conversion rate. So the conversion rate indicates the percentage of visitors who completed the desired action. It's useful for measuring the effectiveness of that landing page and the calls to action that we have on it. Then we have return on investment. So calculating the return on investments will help determine how much profit is made compared to the cost. So let's say that we ran a campaign on social media, right? Let's go back to our original example. So we spent, let's say, 50 euros on that campaign. And we generated website traffic of 2,000 people. But only 100 of those were converted. So let's say that they purchased something that was worth €1. Let's assign that's just an imaginary value right now. So we invested 50 and we gained 100. However, if we put that into a percentage based on the amount of traffic that we generated, then we need to start asking ourselves some important questions as to, what we missed out and what is happening with that campaign that is driving people here, and why is it not necessarily getting the relevant people that will want to convert or will want to purchase something on my site. So these are things to make sure that you have in mind when it comes to that. Then we have the bounce rate. Now, bounce rate measures the percentage of visitors who leave the site after viewing just one page. A low rate can indicate a positive impact on user retention. This is rather a tricky one. I do remember that back in the day, bounce rate was a big thing, because bounce rate is basically somebody goes into a site and then no further action was taken. They just stayed there. It could mean that they changed tabs and went elsewhere, or that they just looked at it and they were like, whatever, and then just closed it. Okay. But if we have a website where we have, let's say, right there on the landing page, it was an article and it was a very long article, then you're kind of going to want to have a big bounce rate, because that means that they engaged with that content. Versus if it was a website which had, a landing page, which had very little text and there was a button there for them to go elsewhere. Well, if that didn't happen and that's the main purpose of that page, then we are looking at a problem. So understanding bounce rate can be tricky, but let's make sure that you understand that the fact that it may be high or low could indicate success either way. It's more dependent on what that landing page was there for and what the intention behind it was. Then we have the click-through rate. So CTR measures the ratio of clicks to impressions of an ad. Again, 2,000 people viewed the ad or the post. 2,000 people clicked on it. Awesome. That is great. You had 100% of click-through rate. But if you're looking at a number that is way low, then you want to start analyzing several things and understanding that this metric, will help to get your mindset in understanding how you may need to pivot, or the fact that you do need to pivot. Then we have social media engagements. Again, these are very well known to us. These are likes, comments, shares, which provide an insight into the relevance of the content that we're putting out there. Then we have lead rating. Now, this is classifying lead by quality, which allows you to identify how many of them have the actual potential to become real customers. Then we have search engine positioning, which is monitoring the website's position in search results, which is basically just going out and Googling for your key terms and see where you come up. So understanding that these are some of the main metrics that you might want to be looking at. Again, as per what we're trying to do in Tometoo, we're not looking to technically train you. However, once you have these concepts, if you feel that these are all relevant to you or some of them are more relevant to you, feel free to go out there and expand on your knowledge when it has to do with this. Then we have data analysis. Now, this is basically using Google Analytics or whichever analytics tool you may have hooked up to your website to evaluate your user behavior patterns. This is the go-to. Normally, everybody is actually hooked on to Google Analytics, we have to say. There are several others, not to say that others do not exist, but most people are looking in there to understand what's happening on their webpage, how people are moving about. It's great to give you an overview on what are the most popular landing pages for your site. And it could even give you real-time data on the amount of users that you have, and you can filter where those users are, and even for some demographic data, meaning date, age, some of their preferences on their publicly known profiles. All of this, of course, is dependent on them having agreed to the cookies policy or not, but you'll still get some very good information from this. And this is absolutely key for you to make sure that you're analyzing who, what, when, where is happening with your website. And just to give you an example, if you understand which are the most relevant landing pages and the most successful ones, then you can go back to your social media strategy or your ads, which ads have these landing pages, because now I know that they're being super effective. So maybe we need to understand what we're doing there and do it elsewhere, so my site as a whole can be successful. Incorporating digital marketing can sound very technically complex or simple. This is really going to be dependent on the needs that you have or the level of curiosity. Remember, there's no way to break the internet. So feel free to go out there, start questioning things, and start seeing how you can do it. Sometimes very basic data can be very rich data, meaning it could shed light on a whole array of things. However, the more refined you want to make your strategies, then the more useful that being a little bit more technical and how you obtain the data and how you analyze it will be to you. So personal empowerment through digital marketing. What are we trying to do here? Again, this is about making sure that you understand that digital marketing is not just a business resource. Being data driven is not just something that is pertinent to a digital marketing job. It also is a very powerful tool. And in fact, it's exactly what we're seeking to empower you with. It's to understand that as an individual, we have a digital footprint, and that digital footprint has an impact. Understanding, measuring, testing how we put that impact out there is very, very powerful, especially if we understand how we can be successful and where we can be successful. We could help to generate a lot of attention either for ourselves as individuals, or if we have a product or service that we are putting out there. Um, so we want to leave that out there for you. We want you to understand this, that again, digital marketing is not just for companies. It's not just for a marketing department. It is for everybody who is contributing to the product or the service, or who are simply looking for employment and they want to become relevant to a certain subset of people, a certain group, or you want to establish yourself as a group, as a thought leader. It is important that we get our message out there and that we are seen. And digital marketing is the way to do it. So I want to thank you for being with us today for this first session and overview on the fundamentals of digital marketing. We hope that you found this useful. And again, you can find this presentation with additional information just below. Thank you very much for joining us today.